And there were like moments. Hey everyone, Fina here from Fina Reads. Welcome and welcome back to my channel today with my November wrap up. We are going into the last month of the year and I'm still flabbergasted that this year's pretty much over already. Well, we have one more month. That gives us 31 more days of reading enjoyment in 2025. November was a really interesting month. It was a hodgepodge reading month, if you want. A bunch of different genres, a bunch of different types of books. So let's talk about them. Starting, as always, with my stats. So in November, I read a total of 8 books, although 2 of those were DNFs. And I read 2,296 pages, which is a bit lower than my average in a month, but that's okay. I came out of a big readathon month, so it's okay to slow down just a little bit. 4 fantasy, 2 thriller, 1 sci-fi, 1 horror, as you can see, all through all the genres. And out of those books, out of the books that I completely read and didn't DNF, I had 1 like and 5 loves. So it was definitely a fantastic reading month. So let's start talking about the 2 DNFs just to get them right out of the way. One was Beckoning of the Gate by Benjamin J. Ryan, an arc that I had on my list since 2022. We're not talking about this, okay? Actually, it was kind of okay that I waited so long because he is re-releasing his book. He got the rights back and he changed a bunch of stuff around. Unfortunately, I could not get into the book. Somehow I couldn't connect to the main character and I tried. Like the book is 300 some odd pages and I read 100 and some odd of it. So a good third of the book and unfortunately, sometimes that's what it is, right? Sometimes we just don't connect to the book. So I put it aside. Maybe I'll pick it up at a later point if I'm in a slightly different mood or something. We will see. The other book that I put down was our November Backlist book club book, which was a Book of the Damned by Tanith Lee, which based off of the description should have been completely up my alley. It's a vampire story. And I was actually really in the mood for a good vampire story, but then it turns out it's some weird erotica and no. This one I only gave about like 20 or 30 pages before I put it down. I was like, this is just not my thing. What I've read about Tanith Lee since then, that seems to be kind of her thing. I have to say, though, I loved the writing. It is more on the flowery side, which is typically not my thing. But I actually really enjoyed the way she described the characters and went into the whole situation. It was just for, you know, the more adult content that I just didn't vibe with. So I might check out if she has something with less of that content, but similar writing, because I would love to read more of that. But yeah, that's, you know, you can't like every book. Talking about the Backlist book club, though, our October read was Shards of Honor, book 1 in chronological order for the Vorkosigan saga series, I don't know, by Lois McMaster Bujold. And both Nico and I love book 1 so much that we said, let's just continue in the series. They're all quick reads. They're all like 200, 300 pages and whatnot. And we wanted to know how that story continues. So Nico and then Kate Coy and I reread Baraya, I have no idea how to pronounce this, book 2 in chronological order. And there were like moments. This was so good, you guys. Shards of Honor and Baraya actually play before Miles' timeline. So the Vorkosigan saga is about the character Miles. But Shards of Honor and book 2, Baraya, are before his time, about his parents. First of all, the whole sci-fi scenario is amazing. Even in book 2, it continues to be very fantastic. The main character, Cornelia, who is his mother, being a scientist, adds so much humor to a certain extent to the story and the way the story is told. Like, I love how she observes everything. I love Lois McMaster Bujold's word choice for Cornelia. There are some really cool situations where instead of saying alcohol, she's using ethanol. This is a very random example, but you know, she has this very scientific way of speaking and I love it. And then there is a fight scene, not fight scene, but there is a it's not a battle scene either, but there, you know, like that type of a scene, but it's not directly a fight scene with our main character. And afterwards I had this I had to send that to our Discord because I was just so pumped. It was so well written. Yeah, I love this. We just decided, Nico, Kate, and I, that we want to read book 3, which is Warrior's Apprentice, in December. So we were ready to go. We're all loving the series. We're loving the writing. We're loving the story. It is fantastic. But we're excited to get to Miles and see what he has in store for us. Moving from sci-fi into fantasy, the first one that I want to mention is more a romance fantasy, which is Fire Spells Between Friends. That's book 2 in this series. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name right now, which is kind of a Bridgerton type story, but with fae and magic. And it's really cool. I read book 1 in October, or rather I listened to it as an audiobook because the narrator is fantastic. It's the same narrator for book 2. Book 2 continues the story. So this is not one of those romance stories that you can read in any order. It is about a different couple, but the overarching story continues in this book. Again, I listened to the audiobook. This is, I believe, the longest one in the current quartet of the series, and you can feel it, unfortunately. So this is my like. I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the characters a lot. I like the whole Bridgerton setting. I love the magic system in this story. That's actually really, really cool. I love they have human magic and fae magic, and then there are some other things going on, especially in this book. And it's so well done. Like the way the magic shows in the world is so well described. It was just so freaking long. It was just very repetitive, and 400 plus pages was just way too long for this book. The other fantasy that I read in November is another arc, which is Slayers of Old by Jim C. Hines, that Daw, the publisher, sent to me. So thank you so much for that. That was not my first Daw arc, but the others were all Green Rider related. So I'm really excited that I'm on their list now. This was cool. So first of all, I actually requested it because of the cover. And I knew this would be something that I would enjoy, and I was right. This was so much fun. So this is about retired superheroes in a certain sense that have to save the world one more time. And they're doing that with a lot of sass and snark, a lot of complaining, and a lot of back aching and whatnot. It is hilarious. So those are 3 people. It's a wizard, a warrior of a goddess, and what's the word? A succubus and a succubus, is that how you pronounce that? That are all living in a magical house, and they're being attacked by teenagers, and obviously that's not okay. There is like eldritch horror elements in there, but in a fun way. The cat is also a lot of fun, and it's just quirky. It's just a good time. It's a really fast read. It's fantastic writing. The cool part is I realized this after the fact that I won a giveaway from the author a while ago. He self-publishes too. He has a book called Kite Master among a bunch of other books. That's the one that I won in a giveaway that I'm now really excited in reading because the writing style is fantastic. Like, this is such a fun book. Next up, horror genre. One Grim Night by Chad Nicholas is the last arc that I'm going to talk about in this month. I had to get through some arcs. Like, I wanted to reduce my number of arcs before ending this year. So that's why there are so many. But that is also a book that I was really excited about because I talked with Chad over on Chaz's channel a while ago. We were celebrating, I believe it's like Chaz's 3 years on booktube, something like that. And it was just a fun conversation. And I knew that Chaz loves Chad's books. This is going to get confusing throughout the video. Loves Chad's books and has read his prior books that he released before then. And he always raved about it. So eventually I wanted to get to one of his books anyway, in particular, because this is a grim fairy tale retelling to a certain extent. Well, it uses characters out of the Grimm fairy tales, and I'm a big fan of Grimm fairy tales. That's what I grew up with. I had a really cool edition that unfortunately got lost over the years, which I'm still really mad about. So yes, I wanted to read it. And I did not expect the book to turn out the way it did. I don't really know how to describe it. So first of all, there's really cool art in the book. I will put in some pictures here to show you what the art in the book looks like. And if I'm not mistaken, Chad is the one who drew all of this. So it's from the author. The story itself is about Red Riding Hood, who is trying to escape from a storm in the forest. Something is following her. You don't really know what it is. And she runs towards a cabin. She sees lights and she's like, oh, please help me. In the cabin, cabin, I will be safe. And the door opens and an older lady is there and lets her in. And, the story ensues from there. It's a very limited setting because you only see what is happening inside that cabin and a little bit around it. There are more people coming and going, all grim fairy tale characters. It's a very visual writing. Chad, the author, describes at the beginning of the book that this was originally a screenplay that he wrote for a class or something. And you can tell, and I mean, don't mean that in a negative way, but you can tell that it is very descriptive on what you would see on the screen. And it makes the whole experience so much more visual. Like, I'm not someone who usually easily sees what is going on in a book, and this was a whole different experience for me. So it was really, really cool. FYI, Chet and I will have an interview together and talk about One Grim Night on December 11th, if I'm not entirely mistaken. Check out the channel. It will be scheduled in the live section so you don't miss it. So yeah, I'm very excited for that conversation, and then also learn more about his other books that he already has out. Lastly, let's jump into the thriller genre, starting with finally the book that I picked up from my Jar Jar Reads for the series that I need to continue reading. I actually picked up Arnaldur Indridason from the list, but I decided to switch it for another Scandinavian author that is also in my jar, which is Ilsa Sigurdardóttir. And I read book 1 in her series. So I've read book, I believe, 1 till 3 years ago, at least 15 years at that point. So I decided to start from the beginning. It is a lot slower than I remembered, but it is still as cool. This is about a German student that is in Iceland currently. He got murdered, and his parents are calling on Dora to help with the investigations. She is a lawyer, and they are shipping a close family friend from Germany to Iceland to help with that. You follow along both of them as they're discovering what actually happened with the son and with their friends and whatnot, and what kind of weird situations he was in. And in typical Icelandic thriller fashion, this thing is dark. There are some slight paranormal elements to that, not in the sense of that it is a paranormal story, but just due to the son's love for witch hunts and everything related to that, and some rituals and all that stuff. Because of that, there are some paranormal elements in there. Very cool story, although I forgot, there's a weird situation with Dora and her secretary going on. The secretary is not a thin girl, and she is making kind of weird fun about it, and that kind of put me off a little bit, so I have to see how that continues in book 2 and 3, if she continues to write comments like that, because that's not really something I enjoy. But other than that, loved it. I'm excited to continue this series. Now, finally, finish it, potentially too. And then the last book that I finished in the month of November, of course, is the November John Mars read, which was Keep It in the Family. That was on the last day. I pushed through and read it like the last 7 minutes while we were in the theater waiting for The Running Man to start. You gotta finish the book. Listen, you can't leave 5 minutes open before a movie starts. It's just not how this works. Keep It in the Family is, I believe, his most popular thriller, and I can kind of see why, although it's still not my favorite. There are other thrillers that I enjoyed a lot more. This is about a young woman and her husband who are buying a house, and as they are renovating together with the in-laws, so his parents, they find 7 or 9 suitcases. I just read it and I don't remember already anymore. They find various suitcases in the attic, and turns out there are children in those suitcases. So we're following this family as we're learning where these children are coming from, what it is all about, these children, what happened with them. As the title says, you can probably already assume there's a lot of stuff that is happening with that particular family. What I thought was cool is a little bit over the half mark point, we are getting a reveal, actually the reveal for the story, but then we're continuing further, which is something that you don't see very often in the thriller genre. Usually once you have the reveal, you get another whatever epilogue and then the book ends. But here there's more that comes after the story, which I thought was very interesting. Nothing super exciting, nothing where it's like, oh my God, that is a ginormous twist now and what is happening here? Yeah, it was kind of cool to see the aftermath of that. And then just a quick mention, because I started reading Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson. So this is going to be read in December and finished. So I'm at this point 62 pages in. You know, the beginnings of his books are always good. Book 1 and 2, the beginnings were great. It started somewhere in the middle where I started to lose interest and it got boring. So we'll see how this continues. So far, some of the same issues that I had with the other books are already popping up. He better nails the ending with this one. What I already love about it more, though, is that we get more POVs from characters that I really enjoyed so far. So I'm hoping for more on that one. And if you want to know what my reading plans are for the rest of the year, go check out my video where I talk about my reading plans for the rest of the year that I published mid-November. A couple of the books I already read, as you will see, but there are a lot more that I still want to finish before this year ends. So all fingers crossed that this is going to happen. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you enjoy the type of books that I read, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so we see each other in future videos. And then till then, have an amazing rest of your day. See you soon. Bye.